Hi there. Welcome back to the Mindset Check podcast. I'm your host, Misha McKittrick. This is a podcast where we believe that as you take time for a mindset check, you have more power than you think you do. And where we also believe that you get exactly out of life what you expect at a subconscious level. The first season of the Mindset Check podcast, if you haven't been here before, we're reading through my journals when I was 15 and pregnant. This is something that wasn't part of the plan when I started the podcast, but it was something that came to me and that I felt compelled to do. I felt impressed to do it. And it's beautiful to see how, as we go through and we hold space for this 15-year-old girl who tackles a few really tough years of being pregnant and then losing her baby, we get to walk through with her and really dive into her mindset. And while doing so, we get to dive into our own. It's an incredible and a very fun journey. So thank you so much for being here and for signing up to go through that with us today. A couple of the people in the podcast today, one of them is my friend Laura, who is in some previous episodes, and she got pregnant at a young age. She was a couple of years older than I was when she got pregnant, but she was in high school, and kind of some things that happened with her in this episode. And then I also kind of give a little rundown of my aunt and uncle and cousins, and you'll hear their names, but just know they're my aunt and uncle and my cousins. And that's really surface. They're not in my journal a lot, though they're awesome and I love them. Everybody else in the journal is pretty typical. Jesse is my husband at the time. Gina is my sister-in-law. Ashley is my niece. Those are always like the main characters in the story. So let's dive in. June 1st, 1994. Taylor was 2 months old yesterday. Jesse and I went down to Lake Mead with Gina, Paul, and the kids, and my sisters. It was pretty fun, and before we went, Jesse went to Panaca and took Taylor. He said he didn't think we should be together that much, and that's why he didn't take me. But then he came to the lake with us. Explain that. What's up? Tonight when I talked to him, he said he thought that I didn't love him or miss him at all. He also told me he called Tori last night, his old girlfriend. She was in Panaca last weekend. He said he didn't talk to her, but all this bleep is making me wonder. I wish I had someone to talk to, a friend maybe, but I don't even have a close one anymore. I'm too different. I talk to Taylor, but she can't tell me what she thinks. Oh well, she's all that matters anyway. Jesse better not even think of taking her from me. June 13th, 1994. I came home about a week ago. Things are much better here in Milford. Latest news with Laura, moving to Texas to have the baby. And then she thinks she'll give it up. She's leaving the 27th. Mike, Noni, and company are here. Or in Cedar, my cousins. Kim's getting remarried in the temple. Mandy's going to college, and Bethany, well, her head is too far in the clouds to even recognize me. Jeremy is making a cedar chest, and Wendy had her baby 6 days after Taylor, and he's huge. David, well, he's in the bishopric, and everyone's happy. Our car's transmission went out on the way to Cedar. We think Jesse's mom is going to buy it from us, and we're going to try to get a new Chrysler New Yorker. We have a warranty, so we won't have to go through all this stuff with the used one. June 16th, 1994. Taylor's sucking her thumb. I'm so sick of never doing anything. Taylor, Ashley, and I are always stuck in this dumb house, and the wind is blowing 90 miles an hour and never stops. So we can't take Taylor outside, and the only place we ever go is the post office, and to get snow cones, And that only takes a half an hour. So what are we to do all the rest of these long summer days? Sick of cleaning. And that's all I ever do. We are always the ones that stay home. Like, I'm the oldest kid that gets to tend everyone else's kids. Kids, while the adults go out. These days are so freaking long. And the, quote, adults are the only people I ever know or talk to. How boring. They go up the mountain while we stay here doing nothing in this 2-bedroom apartment. All right, first let's just jump in and talk just a little bit about my friend Laura. My friend Laura, if you remember from previous episodes, she got pregnant. She's a young teenager, not as young as I was. She was maybe a year older than me in school and got pregnant a little bit later than I did. But she gets pregnant. And in this episode, we learn that she's going to move to Texas. And I was asking my mom the other day, I said, Mom, you know how when I talk about the story of when I told you guys I was pregnant and Dad says, Mish, we aren't the family to move you to Texas. And I think it's interesting what my brain has done, because I think my dad actually said, we're not the family that will send you to live with a distant family relative. And then it's crossing in my brain with this story of Laura, whose family really did send her to Texas to live with a distant family member. You know, there's a lot to be said about that, because it's a little bit unclear not knowing the motivations of that family. If the motivations of that family were, we want to send you away because we want to pretend this isn't happening, or we actually think that that would be good for you because you would be able to come back and have a clean slate. I don't know. But I really love the way that in my story, my family taught me to deal with life and not to sweep it under the rug and not to pretend that things are not happening. And I think that that contributed to a very healthy way of me going about life. And even later when things have happened, you know, things, whatever, just stuff with kids, stuff with my own life or whatever comes up, you know, I don't feel, even though sometimes, yes, you might want to run and hide under a rock for a minute, you know, I still feel that owning our stories, the good and the bad, is such an important part of going through life and really confronting the issue and not getting so confused in our mind that, you know, of what really is happening and, you know, seeing the truth. Anyway, so there's a lot for me around reading my story about the report of my friend. And I never kept up with that friend. I never knew, like, in the grand scheme of things, if that was something that was good for her or not good for her. Chances are it probably has a lot to do with the environment that she was actually living in while she was in Texas. So that's a whole another ball of yarn, you know? But I would love to know. I would love to know, like, how that felt for her, because most of the time when that happens for women, I've watched movies about it. I can't remember one movie in particular, but if I do remember, I'll link it in the show notes. And it was about, you know, when women got pregnant, I think even in England, they were shipped away to a temporary sort of hospital setting so that they could have their baby. Anyway, the comment that I made about my cousin Bethany, it's interesting because she is the cousin that's my age, and I wrote, well, her head is too far in the clouds to even recognize me. And you know what? I think it's interesting to look at that because Bethany and I are very close friends, like really close friends now in our life now. And I think there's two things. A, she was doing very different things than I was in my life. So, that comment was just, we don't have a connection right now. And then secondly, I remember my sister-in-law once telling me about 12-year-old boys. This is before my boys were 12. But she just said to me, make sure that you give 12-year-old boys a lot of space, because sometimes they'll make, decisions and they'll be mean or they'll whatever, and they might come around later to be their best friends. And I think that goes for, 12-year-old girls. I think that goes for, teenagers. I think it goes for adults. I think it goes for us all the way around, that sometimes we don't always show up being our best or even just aware of the people that are within our, influence and scope. And it's just a great opportunity to look at giving people the benefit of the doubt. I also want to talk about Jesse's double life. It's pretty apparent, you're starting to see at this point, where, he went to the lake with us, but he didn't want to take me to Panaca. And he said this thing about us, maybe it's better that we're not together all the time. And don't think for a minute that I hear him tell me this story about Tori and that he called her, but they didn't see each other. I don't believe that for a second. Not for a second. The story, do you see how in this, when I'm writing it down in my journal, I'm saying, gosh, I wish I had someone to talk to about this. But I'm too different than all of the other people, aka my peers. But in the same breath, I talked to Gina in the previous episode about everything. So what's that really about? And I think that this is a really good formula. A good formula to be able to tell if there is a truth that you are not wanting to see yourself. Because often I think that, as I look back through my story, I'm like, yeah, there were red flags all over the place, but I didn't want to see them. And if I would have brought this up to anyone, my sister, to Gina, or if I did have a friend that I thought was, close, time was different back then. It's not like I could call my friend Laura, it was long distance. So we kind of limited how much we called each other, which is so sad. Communication really has come so far, and the opportunity that we have to do that is so expansive. But I just look at that and I go, you know what? If you cannot say something that's happening to the people that you do talk to, it's a red flag. It's a red flag. So that's just a couple of cents on that. I also really want to talk about, and this is kind of what I want to focus on today. I really want to focus on all of the frustration and the negative talk, the complaining, the whining. I'm everyone's babysitter, and Ashley and I have nothing to do all day. And, all of this incredible negativity. And I was, again, talking to my mom, and she said, Mish, really, that's what you were being given, and that's what was also coming out of you. And here's another formula, right? If we don't change what is coming in when it's negative, if we're not taking whatever actions we can to change that feeling, then that feeling turns around and comes right back out of us. And I think it is absolutely imperative to recognize that when your life isn't going how you want it, all that it really is an opportunity for you. It's an opportunity for you to do something different, to introduce something. The problem is so many times we don't know what to do, but that's one of the things we're going to dive into today. I'm going to share with you another formula, right? So we're getting this repetition of formulas today. And I'm going to share with you a formula that when things aren't going like you want it, how you can redirect it. We talk a lot about a lot of things, like choosing our feelings and how to actually process and how to deal with stress. And today we're going to talk about our brain and how what we believe inside of our brain becomes the life that we live. It becomes the life that we live. So we're going to talk about belief. So if you kind of go into your mind and we talk about the little engine that could. This is a story that I grew up knowing as a little girl and being told about a train, right? An engine that was going up a hill and had so much self-doubt about going up this hill and started to find success when he really started to believe that he could. And he started saying the words, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Choo choo, right? And then he has this breakthrough and he makes it up over the hill. He makes it up over the thing that was hard for him, the thing that was troubling and that he was struggling with. And I love seeing all these little stories of ways that this is implanted kind of in the stories of our life, you know, when you wish upon a star, right? It doesn't make a difference who you are. Like what matters is what you believe. In the secret garden, we also see this undertone of there being this sort of magic, this magic thing that can happen in the world if you start to understand how to use it. And that's how I feel about what I'm going to teach you today. And this is all about affirmations. Now, I want to go back to a time when I was taught about affirmations way in the beginning. And affirmations to me meant the secret. And it meant kind of pumping yourself up, you know? And I don't see affirmations like that anymore. There's a huge difference. And so I want to break that down with you and talk about the difference and talk about the in-depth side behind affirmations. And we understand how it happens in our brain, how it happens inside of our mind. Then we understand, oh, I get what they were trying to say. I get what the secret was trying to say, but it just wasn't as thorough. It felt to me like, oh, yeah, put good thoughts out in the world. Like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get a parking spot. And then boom, you'll get it, you know? Very, very different. So let's dive in a little bit to the difference in how our mind works. Because this is the most important part. This is the juiciest part. So when we dive into our mind and you start to understand the difference between our conscious brain and our subconscious brain, the first thing that you need to know is that our subconscious brain is the one that's always running. It's the one that functions kind of when we go on autopilot. You know how when you've ever been driving and you got from point A to point B, but it became so automatic. It's a path that you drive all the time. You didn't have to think about it. It was just something that you did. That was your subconscious brain kind of taking over and going into autopilot. Our subconscious brain is also the part of our mind that is responsible for allowing us to function while we're sleeping, right? Our heart continues to beat and our lungs continue to breathe. So we have all of the things that we need when our conscious mind is turned off. And when our conscious mind is turned on, we have the ability to influence our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind is the deep part of our brain that holds all of our, real beliefs about the world and the way that the world works. And, have you ever come across someone who has a certain belief about life? Like they believe that, I don't know, this is kind of audacious, but I'm just going to say, like, let's say that all men are monsters and predators. And then they continue to attract that into their life. It's because they have such a deep-seated belief in their brain that that's truth. And so your subconscious brain is so incredibly powerful that it will do everything to be able to bring your beliefs to you in your life so that you can see proof. You're like, yeah. Yes, that's the truth. So there's the part of us that gets to influence what those beliefs are. With our conscious mind, if we actually put forth effort, and it's not really hard. It's actually quite easy. You just have to plant the seed and then take care of it. And you have to be aware of anything that would, like if a chicken came in and pecked out the seed and then ate it, like took the seed out of the ground and ate it, you have to kind of get those chickens away. Okay, so does that make sense? You have to protect the belief. You have to protect the seed that you plant. So really quick, I want to tell you about a story about a research experiment that they did at Stanford. This is Carol Dweck. This is her work. They wanted to do an experiment where if they could change the way that kids believed, they wanted to be able to see if it would show up. So they gave fifth graders a ring of 100 keys, and they asked them to find the one of those keys that unlocks this door. And they struggle, and they kind of mess with the keys for a little while, but then after a few minutes, they just give up. And so she takes a second group, and she puts superhero capes on them, and she has them believe that they have this superpower, this ability, right? A belief. And they are given the keys, and they unlock the door within an average of 45 seconds. So 2 different groups, and the variable was the belief. And they were able to do it with the belief. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "A man is what he thinks all day." And so if you can plant the belief inside of your brain, your subconscious brain, your subconscious mind has so much power that it will be able to pull you in that direction or bring the thing into your life that you need. For example, one of my affirmations is that I have thick, rich, beautiful hair. Okay. That's because obviously my hair had started to kind of get thinner, and I started to get a little bit discouraged about it. And I said, you know what? I am going to change the belief. The belief inside my head is that my hair is thick and rich and beautiful. And then I'm introduced to a doctor who tests hormones and will give you the supplements that you need to kind of combat what your body's doing. The doctor, came into my life and brought these nutrients. And so then you say, is it the belief that's making my hair grow, or is it the supplements that's making my hair grow? And the bottom line is, it doesn't really matter, right? The bottom line is that my subconscious brain probably brought exactly what I needed to help me combat the issue, or to be able to make sure that the belief that I had, that there was proof for that belief. When I first started Affirmations, when I first read this amazing book, which I'll put a link to in the show notes if you want, this incredible book that talks about a lot of what I'm going over today, I was so on board because I understood the difference between, kind of a pep talk and like getting deep inside of our brains to plant beliefs and to change the way that our belief system is inside of our brain. And when I did that, I started my list of affirmations, and I was messing with big things. Like, I live in a house that's brand new, that's light and airy around the corner. And within 6 months of writing that affirmation and saying it every day, I did live in a brand new house that was light and airy around the corner. And it wasn't something that I forced. It was something that happened, that came to be, that was like, just get out of the way. It's kind of like how when a gardener plants a tomato seed. This is my favorite analogy about it, because the gardener doesn't have to worry about the biological process of how that seed turns into a plant. The gardener only has to worry about getting the seed in the ground and then cultivating the seed. The gardener doesn't have to know that the seed actually like swells and then cracks and then has to work its way up through the ground and the soil, and it has to get the right, the gardener doesn't know or need to be concerned with the biological process. Because as long as the seed has nourishment, then that seed grows. Another one of the early affirmations that I had on my list is that I own a car that's perfect for my needs. And abundance came into our life. And I wasn't even really thinking about how important the word structure was, because I didn't say I have a car. I said I own a car. And abundance came into our life. And we were able to own a car that literally is like what we would have asked for, what our dream car would have been. And I was starting to go like, oh my gosh, this is real. This is real. And so, yes, I totally understand the proverb that says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Because the way that we hold our very deep-seated beliefs really is the way that our life turns out, for the most part. For the most part. In other words, we do have influence over our life. And not every single thing is going to go, there's a much bigger plan, right? I believe that there's a much bigger plan, but I believe that what we have sort of power over, what we can control, we must. We should. If we take a couple of examples of things that people might normally feel, okay? So sometimes people feel like they don't have friends, and then they start to run something in their mind that says, well, I'm not very good with people. Like I'm unsociable and I'm unattractive. Like I'm ugly. Versus I'm likable and attractive. You can see how if that's what you really believe, and if what comes into your life because of what you believe, let's sign up to believe that we're likable and attractive. Instead of signing up to think that we're stupid or that we can't do it, let's sign up that we are intelligent and that we're quick-witted and that we're on top of it. We can do it. Our brain works so fast and so well. Why not sign up for that? Life is hard, sad. If you're resonating with that truth, let's reinvent that belief. Let's change it to life is beautiful and happy. And let's not worry about the biological process of the seed that we plant. So going along with the seed analogy, there is a responsibility that we have when we plant this belief. And that is to protect it. Just like the chickens that we talked about a little bit earlier, we have to keep the chickens away from the seed. This is what I mean. If we take the example of life is hard and sad, and we're trying to plant life is beautiful and happy, and the way that affirmations go is you say them, you create your list, and we'll talk about how you create your list. But once you create your list, you say it morning and you say it night. And you hold those beliefs throughout the day. So if you say it morning and night, and by the way, when you say it, you really need to feel it. So you need to look for proof of like, oh yeah, life is beautiful and happy. And you can picture times in your life that are beautiful and happy, or you can picture something, you in a future state as being beautiful and happy. And you can picture that, what if that's me right now? So you bring the feeling, you bring the belief to life. But then let's say that you're really good at doing that morning and night. And then during the day, you're like, oh, no. There's proof, life sucks. And you start writing down in your journal and you're like, oh, life really sucks. And you start, watching movies, or you start consuming content that is contrary, that's showing you that life does suck. What you're going to bring into your life, the belief that's going to come, is that life isn't beautiful and happy. No matter how much you're saying morning and night, you're being contrary all day long. If someone is, in pain and they're trying to be pain-free and they say, my body feels amazing. And then all day long they complain to their husband or anyone that will hear, oh my gosh, like this is so much pain. So you have to understand how much our conscious brains have control over that belief. And if we are believing more than we are not believing, so if we are believing that life is awesome more than we're believing life sucks, then we're creating and cultivating that belief. And the more that we can get those negative thoughts away and really believe, our subconscious brain starts to bring proof of that thing into our life. One story that I really, really love, and I don't know even where I heard this story, but there's a guy who went to work, and his name was James. And at work, everyone there thought, you know what, let's do a little experiment on James. I wonder if we can get him to believe that he doesn't feel good and go home. And so they start to say to him, someone right away from the very beginning of the day says, hey, James, you doing okay? He says, yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. And then a couple of hours later, someone comes by and just says, gosh, are you okay? Like, you're looking a little bit pale. Are you feeling okay? Gosh, yeah, I'm doing okay. I guess, he starts to question. And then a little while later, somebody else sees him passing by and says, James, are you okay? Like, are you really feeling fine? And so many people start to ask him if he's looking okay or if he's doing okay because he actually looks sick. That by the afternoon, he believes that he is feeling sick and he goes home for the rest of the day. I'm like, our beliefs produce our feelings. Our beliefs produce what our life looks like. Victor Bach said that we get out of life exactly what we expect at a subconscious level. So let's talk just a little bit about how we do affirmations, like how do you set them? Because it's really simple. All you really have to do is, think of something that you want, or you think about something that you don't like about your life and you flip it. So the same examples that I gave you before, life sucks, life is awesome. You just take something that you don't like, write it out, and flip it. Flip it into a truth. And flipping it into a truth helps you to create a new belief. Sometimes it's tricky, like you're actually having to trick your brain because maybe it's not that believable. And how can something be achievable if it's not believable? So sometimes we really are having to trick our brain. Like we're actually lying to ourselves. Like it's not the truth. Because when I said I live in a brand new house that's light and airy around the corner, I didn't live in a brand new house that was light and airy. I didn't. I lived in a house that was brown and it was old. Or older, right? And I had to believe the opposite. So every single time that you write an affirmation, you have to write it as I am or I have, like it's current right now. And sometimes if it's like you're trying to pay off a really big debt, you could set your affirmations in increments. Or if it's a lot of weight that you have to lose, you can set your affirmations in increments, so that it's more achievable because it's more believable for you. But it really doesn't matter as long as you can introduce it into your mind and that you can start to believe. And sometimes you can also use the word I'm in the process of. I'm in the process of obtaining the car of my dreams, but you would want to try to be specific about what the car is if you can. So the more specific and the more believable for you, the better. And if it's completely audacious, that's okay. It's just that you want to pay attention to how you feel when you say it. Because if you can get yourself into a state of mind where you actually believe what's being said, that's what you want to feel. Like for a car, you want to feel yourself driving that car. You want to feel it. You want to feel how you would feel if you were, whatever it is, whatever your affirmation is. But if what you feel when you say it is actually like, it's never going to happen. This is not even effective. I don't even know why I'm doing this. Then what belief really are you cultivating? You're cultivating doubt. And so you have to be careful that whatever your affirmations are, that you have the ability to feel them. So it's very simple. It's a very simple process. You create your affirmations, then you say them morning and night. And you can write them down during the day. You can sort of have affirmations that, sometimes, like one of my affirmations is like that I have the ability to do exactly what is needed for today. Because I, like many of you probably feel like I have a lot of things on my plate. Like I feel like there's a lot, and I'm, the contrary belief would be saying that I'm not sure there's enough time for me to really accomplish what I need to do. But that would not be what I want to reinforce. And so that's one that I kind of hang right by my desk. I say, what I have to give today is exactly what's needed. And then it continues to bring that, my subconscious brain continues to prove that to me in my life. It's beautiful. So remember to be a disruptor. Remember to be a person who decides, I'm not going to continue thinking the same thoughts every single day. I'm going to introduce new thoughts into my life. And that's going to bring you power. That's going to give you fuel to create something different for your life. So that if your life isn't going how you want it, that you're creating an opportunity. That you see that for, oh my gosh, like I can do something about this. And I think that when we start to tap into the idea that we have the ability or the power to do something, that it's more motivating, that we believe that we can. Your subconscious brain really does operate on the images that you supply, and you get exactly out of life what you expect at a subconscious level. So remember to really take a deep dive and look at what your beliefs are. Look at what it is that you do believe about life, and then sign up to do something to bring about what you want. Abraham Lincoln said, most people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. And now I understand that quote on a completely different level. It's a beautiful thing, my friend. And I hope that you find the same power with affirmations that I did. Like I said, I'll put the link to the book in the comments below. It appears that the book is about money. It's called How to Solve All Your Money Problems Forever. But trust me that the process of that is the same for anything in your life. I'll put the link to that book in the show notes below. And one thing that's really amazing is that if we can create our affirmations and really put them out into the world, you can do it privately, but also if you do it publicly, there's a little bit more of like accountability associated with it. And so if you want that aspect of it, I'm going to start a challenge on the Facebook group, Mindset Check. So go to Facebook and just type in Mindset Check. You'll see the group there, and then just ask to join, and you'll be a part of it. And then you can go ahead and submit or ask questions, or, we can kind of go back and forth over there on the Facebook group about all of this. And if you have all your doubts and beliefs, you can bring those too. We'll dive in and we'll talk about all of those. But I would love to encourage you to go and do that this week. Also remember that this podcast can grow with your help. If you think that this information is helpful, then I would love it if you will share it with someone and rate and review the podcast. That's a good help for us. And thank you so much to honestly so many people who are listening and who have left reviews. It really means a lot to me. And as always, thank you so much for letting me walk through a small part of your journey with you today. Remember that as you take time for a mindset check, like if you really dive in and look at what your beliefs are, you're going to find that you have more power than you think you do. Until next time, my friend.